nature has produced a spectacular arsenal of biological weapons: horns, claws, and armor plates. But one group of animals took a different path, evolving the skull itself into a living battering ram. Imagine a 10-inch thick dome of solid bone, a walking helmet seemingly designed for high-impact collisions, surrounded by a crown of wicked-looking spikes. This is one of the most bizarre and specialized adaptations in the entire fossil record. It belonged to Pachycephalosaurus, the thick-headed lizard, one of the very last non-avian dinosaurs to walk the Earth. Its incredible dome has made it a star, but it also shrouds the animal in profound mystery. In this documentary, we will investigate the fierce debates over how it used this natural weapon and explore a stunning theory that suggests this dinosaur was a shapeshifter. To solve the greatest puzzles of the prehistoric world, subscribe to Ancient Rulers. Now, let's journey back in time and uncover the story of a lost world. The story of Pachycephalosaurus is, first and foremost, a story of skulls. For nearly all of paleontological history, this dinosaur has been a ghost, a creature known almost exclusively from its astonishingly thick, bony dome. This creates a fascinating puzzle. When we search for its fossils, we are not looking for vast bone beds of complete skeletons. Instead, we are looking for isolated, water-worn, and incredibly dense craniums. The reason for this lies in the simple physics of preservation. The skull of a Pachycephalosaurus was a solid, near-indestructible mass of bone. In contrast, the rest of its skeleton was relatively light and delicate. After death, as its body was washed away by ancient rivers, the fragile bones of its spine, limbs, and ribs would scatter and break apart, while the mighty dome would endure, tumbling along riverbeds like a geological cannonball, uniquely suited to survive the millions of years it took to become a fossil. The first piece of this animal was discovered as early as the 1,850 seconds in Montana, but it was just a fragment, initially misidentified as a piece of armor from an ancient reptile. It wasn't until the 1,930 seconds, with the discovery of more complete skulls, that paleontologists began to understand the creature they were dealing with. For decades, Pachycephalosaurus remained little more than a head on a museum shelf, its body a matter of educated guesswork, based on its smaller, more complete relatives. To bring this creature to life, we must travel to its world. We journey to the very end of the late Cretaceous, between 68 and 66 million years ago. Pachycephalosaurus was a member of the final dynasty of non-avian dinosaurs. It walked the Earth during the last 2 million years of the Mesozoic era, a witness to the final act of a 150 million year reign, right up until the cataclysmic asteroid impact that brought the age of dinosaurs to a fiery close. Its kingdom was the legendary Hell Creek Formation. This land today is the region of Montana, Wyoming, and the Dakotas in the United States. But in the late Cretaceous, it was a vast, subtropical coastal plain bordering the slowly retreating western interior seaway. The climate was warm and humid, and the landscape was a lush, vibrant tapestry of forests and floodplains. Mighty rivers snaked across the land, nourishing dense woodlands of dawn redwoods, cypress, and magnolia trees, alongside a thick undergrowth of ferns, cycads, and newly evolved flowering plants. This was a world teeming with life, a rich and fertile stage for some of history's most famous creatures. And it is here that we get a true sense of scale. Pachycephalosaurus was not the largest animal in its environment. It was a medium-sized herbivore living in the shadows of giants. It shared its forest home with the colossal three-horned Triceratops and the vast herds of the duck-billed hadrosaur, Edmontosaurus. It had to be wary of the armored battle tank that was Ankylosaurus. And stalking this entire world was the undisputed apex predator, a carnivore so powerful it has become a legend in its own right, Tyrannosaurus Rex. In a world populated by such titans, a smaller animal needed a revolutionary strategy to survive, and that strategy was forged in the bone of its incredible skull. To understand Pachycephalosaurus, we must look closely at its most defining feature, the incredible bony crown that gives it its name. The top of its skull was a solid dome of bone, reaching a staggering thickness of up to 25 centimeters, or 10 inches. To put that in perspective, that is the thickness of a solid concrete wall. This was not a hollow structure. It was a dense, heavy mass of highly vascularized fibrolamellar bone, a type of tissue that indicates rapid growth and remarkable strength. When we look at this structure through modern technology, using CT scans to peer inside, we see a unique arrangement of radiating fibers, a natural architecture seemingly built to withstand and dissipate immense physical forces. But the dome was not smooth. The back of the skull was adorned with a shelf of large, blunt bony knobs, and the short, narrow snout was covered in smaller spikes and bumps. In life, these were almost certainly covered in a sheath of keratin, the same material as our fingernails or the horns of a ram, making them even larger, sharper, and more intimidating. This was not just a helmet, it was a fearsome-looking crown, and its purpose has fueled one of the most intense and long-running debates in all of dinosaur paleontology. For decades, the popular and intuitive theory was headbutting. The image of two male Pachycephalosaurus charging and ramming each other, skull to skull, in a thunderous clash for dominance is etched into our cultural imagination. Proponents of this theory point to modern analogs like bighorn sheep and musk oxen. The incredibly thick bone, the shock-absorbing internal structure, and a reinforced spine all seem to be classic adaptations for this kind of ritualized combat. The dome, in this view, was the centerpiece of a violent contest for mating rights and territory. However, as our scientific tools have become more sophisticated, this classic image has been challenged. Biomechanical studies have shown that the rounded surface of the dome would have been surprisingly poor at transferring force head-on, creating a high risk of glancing blows that could cause catastrophic neck injuries. Some paleontologists have also argued that the bone structure of the dome lacks the specific tissue patterns we see in the skulls of modern head-butting animals that are associated with healing from frequent, high-impact trauma. This has led to a compelling alternative: flank butting. Instead of charging head-on, a Pachycephalosaurus may have used its powerful neck to swing its head like a club, ramming its armored crown into the broad, muscular flank of a rival. This would have been a far less risky behavior for the attacker, and the wide bodies of these animals would have made for a large and well-padded target. The spikes and knobs on the sides and back of the head suddenly make much more sense as weapons in this context. A third possibility is that the primary function wasn't physical combat at all, but display. The dome and its ornamentation may have served as a billboard, a visual signal of the animal's age, health, and social status. Like the antlers of a moose, a bigger, more elaborate dome could have been enough to intimidate a rival without ever having to come to blows. It may have even been brightly colored to attract a mate. The truth likely lies in a combination of these theories. A magnificent display structure that could, when push came to shove, be used as a formidable weapon in a brutal contest for survival. While the skull of Pachycephalosaurus is its most famous and durable feature, enough fragmentary remains of its body have been discovered over the years, along with more complete skeletons of its smaller relatives, to allow us to reconstruct the living animal with confidence. This was no lumbering giant. It was a dynamic, bipedal creature built for agility. It stood on two long, muscular hind legs that suggest it was a capable and even speedy runner. From snout to tail, a full-grown adult would have measured about 5 meters, or 15 feet, and weighed around 450 kilograms, comparable in size to a modern wild boar. The rest of its body was a masterclass in balance and support for its heavy head. It had a stout, barrel-chested torso, indicating a large digestive system. The neck was thick and muscular, and shaped column designed to support the cranial dome and deliver powerful blows. Its forelimbs were relatively short and simple, with 5-fingered hands that were not used for walking, but may have helped manipulate low-lying vegetation. Stretching out behind it was a long, heavy tail, which we believe was held rigid by a lattice of ossified tendons. This stiffened tail acted as a vital counterbalance, allowing the animal to make quick turns and remain stable while running or engaging in its unique social behaviors. But what did this animal eat? When we look inside its jaws, we find another surprise. Pachycephalosaurus lacked the sophisticated grinding batteries of teeth found in its giant herbivorous neighbors like Triceratops and Edmontosaurus. Instead, it had rows of small, simple, leaf-shaped teeth. This kind of dentition is not well suited for processing tough, fibrous plants. This evidence strongly suggests that Pachycephalosaurus was not a strict herbivore. It was likely an omnivore, a versatile forager that adapted its diet to whatever was available. It would have used its narrow beak to selectively browse on soft leaves, fruit, and seeds, but it would have readily supplemented that with protein, snapping up insects, lizards, and perhaps even the eggs or hatchlings of other dinosaurs. This omnivorous diet helps us define its precise ecological role. In the crowded world of the Hell Creek Formation, Pachycephalosaurus was a specialist in survival. It was a low-level forager, occupying a niche that avoided direct competition with the colossal, bulk-feeding herbivores. It lived in the understory of the great cypress and redwood forests, a creature of the shadows. Its elaborate headgear strongly implies a complex social life. These were likely not solitary animals, but lived in small herds or clans, a behavior that would have offered significant protection. We can imagine a group foraging on the forest floor, their keen senses of smell and hearing constantly on alert for the approach of a predator. And the primary predator was, of course, Tyrannosaurus Rex. Against such a foe, head-on defense would have been futile. The dome was a tool for interacting with its own species. Against a T-Rex, its greatest assets were awareness and speed. Its long legs would have allowed it to bolt into the dense undergrowth, its relatively small size enabling it to navigate terrain where a giant carnivore could not easily follow. It was a life of constant vigilance, thriving in a world of titans through a combination of versatility, social cooperation, and, when necessary, a swift retreat. For many years, the story of the dome-headed dinosaurs of Hell Creek seemed to feature a cast of 3 distinct characters. There was the giant, Pachycephalosaurus, with its massive dome and blunt horns. Alongside it lived a creature named Stygimoloch spinifer, the horned devil from the river Styx. It was smaller, with a less developed dome, but sported a terrifying crown of long, backward curving, goat-like spikes. And then there was the most spectacular of all, Dracorex hogwartsia. Named in honor of the Harry Potter series, its name means the Dragon King of Hogwarts. Its skull was almost completely flat, but was adorned with a fantastic array of sharp horns and bumps, looking for all the world like a mythical dragon. For decades, we believed these three animals were close cousins, three different species of Pachycephalosaur sharing the same ecosystem. But this raised a difficult question. How could three animals with such similar body plans and diets coexist without outcompeting one another? The answer, proposed by paleontologists like Jack Horner, was a revolutionary theory that has transformed our understanding of these animals. The theory suggests that we were not looking at three different species, but at one single species, at three different stages of life. This is the theory of ontogeny, the study of how an organism changes as it grows. According to this hypothesis, Dracorex, Stygimoloch, and Pachycephalosaurus are all the same animal. The key evidence lies hidden within the bone itself. When scientists cut thin sections from these fossil skulls and examine their microstructure, they can determine the age of the animal. The bone of the flat-headed Dracorex is spongy and highly vascularized, hallmarks of a very young, rapidly growing juvenile. The skull of Stygimoloch shows bone that is still growing, but becoming denser a subadult or teenager. And the massive dome of Pachycephalosaurus is composed of dense, mature bone, showing signs of remodeling, consistent with a fully grown adult. This evidence allows us to reconstruct a remarkable life story. A young Pachycephalosaurus would hatch looking like a Dracorex, its head flat and covered in sharp spikes, which may have offered some protection from smaller predators. As it entered its turbulent teenage years, it would transform into the Stygimoloch phase. The dome would begin to swell, and the spikes on the back of its head would grow to their maximum length, becoming huge and intimidating. This was likely a crucial stage for display and establishing social rank among its peers. Finally, as the animal reached full sexual maturity, a final, dramatic transformation occurred. The dome would continue to expand, swelling into the massive battering ram of the adult Pachycephalosaurus. At the same time, the long, sharp spikes of the teenager would actually begin to resorb, shrinking and rounding off to become the blunt knobs seen in the adult. The fearsome spikes of youth were traded for the powerful dome of adulthood as the animal's priorities shifted from simple defense and recognition to the serious business of competing for mates. If this theory holds, it means Pachycephalosaurus was a master of disguise, a true shapeshifter whose appearance changed more dramatically throughout its life than almost any dinosaur we know. Our journey with Pachycephalosaurus has taken us from the simple caricature of a headbutting dinosaur to a far more complex and fascinating reality. We have pieced together a nimble omnivore that survived in a world of giants, and we've uncovered the incredible story of a shapeshifter whose draconic, spiky youth transformed into the mighty dome of an adult. The story of the thick-headed lizard is a powerful testament to the nature of paleontology itself. It is a science of fragments, of constantly challenging old ideas with new evidence. This animal's portrait is not yet finished. Each new discovery adds another brushstroke, deepening our understanding while often raising new questions. Of all the debates about Pachycephalosaurus, which theory do you find most interesting? Was its dome for headbutting, flank butting, or pure display? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. To ensure you don't miss any chronicles of the ancient rulers, make sure you've subscribed and turned on the notification bell.